And we're live. Yay. Hi.
Yay. Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our second Angels in Action with Susie Antara and Larkin.
Welcome, everybody. It's lovely to be back again. Apologies for missing last week, but I had a family crisis that had to be dealt with urgently. Fortunately, it's all resolved and settled nicely. So, yeah, but hopefully moving forward. But that's life, isn't it? That's what happens. And sometimes we just have to go with the flow of things and see where it takes us.
And I was going to carry the show myself, and my darling husband slipped on leaves and rolled his car.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
So I ended up having to take care of things like that. And speaking of angels in action, I have to share with you guys. So he rolled his car on Friday, and I ended up having to help with things on Monday. So that's why you guys didn't see me by myself on Monday. But guys, this is angels in action. And my dog's in surgery. So if my phone rings, I'm going to leave it to Susie for a few minutes. I'll have to take it. She's an angel too.
But hi Tia. Thanks for coming. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my comments or I'm gonna miss people again. So let's see. Yeah, so on Friday, my husband, when it was going up a road that is a big curvy road, this is an angel story, guys, and he goes up there 3 or 4 times a day. He's an awesome driver, and he slipped on leaves. For those of you who don't know, wet leaves are as dangerous as black ice. They're really dangerous. And his car hydroplaned. He went into a 4-foot ditch sideways. When he went in the ditch, he went sideways, hit a telephone pole, split the telephone pole in half. The telephone pole catapulted him back across the road. He rolled his vehicle, landed in another ditch upright. The airbags did not deploy.
Oh, wow.
He walked out of that vehicle that is totaled with not a scratch or a bruise. Now, I can tell you firsthand, his mother is looking after him really well. He had no concussion, no whiplash, no soreness, nothing. So just so you all know, when we say angels in action, we're talking about, angels coming from the ethereal plane, spirit guides working in non-physical, angels working in non-physical. And we really want to share with you guys on this podcast how that can impact us in our physical, everyday, practical lives. And this is one example. I mean, I could have lost my husband last Friday, but yet he walked away without a scratch. And so anyway, just, a little quick story share with you all as we get started today.
I can share a road driving story, something very similar. And to this day, I know the angels helped us. I was driving along a motorway. I was a passenger. My friend was driving. And for those of you that I don't know what it's like in the States, but we have like slip roads, which I'm sure you must have as well. And ours have like this chevron painting triangular box between the main road and then the slip road. So you're not supposed to obviously cross into the slip road through this box. Yeah. Anyway, we were driving along and my friend suddenly was like, oh my God, we've missed the turning. We've missed the slip road. And I was just about to say, that's okay. Drive down to the next one. We'll turn around and come back. No, she decided she was going to go straight across these chevrons into the slip road. As she did that, in my peripheral vision, I saw this lorry coming up on our inside. And with that, there was this flash of blue light and it felt like the car shrank and my whole body just went like that. And the lorry literally scraped past our wing mirror. And I still swear to this day, the angels made that car shrink. As strange as it may sound, if it hadn't been for the flash of blue light surrounding us, I would have just put it down to, just sheer luck that we actually weren't hit by that lorry. But the fact that blue light, that feeling of safety. It was just a huge feeling of safety that came in that instant. And she looked at me, I looked at her, and we both went, "You saw the light, didn't you?" And we're like, "Yeah." So for the rest of the journey, we were very grateful to Archangel Michael for keeping us safe.
Oh yeah, that's immediately. I was like, yeah, that was so him.
Yeah. Well, he is the big angel of protection, isn't he? So
well, and when I see those big flashes of like it's, you can't describe the colors. I mean, what you see is unbelievable. Speaking of which, I'm wearing blue today, but Archangel Michael has these just, the angels, guys, they have colors that when you see and experience them, you're seeing colors that we can't really see here in this world with our eyes. And it's just, hello, Chrissy, welcome. And it's just incredible. It is Bonnie, welcome. Thank you. I'm glad he's okay too. My husband has a car this color, had a car this color. But yeah, I mean, when you said that, I'm like, yeah, that was Archangel Michael, because he just comes with these brilliant blues and purples, and when you guys see them, even if you see them with your eyes, they're just colors you would not see here.
Yeah, you can. They're indescribable, aren't they? Really.
Yeah.
You can give the idea of the color, but the actual seeing that color itself is just phenomenal. And there are no. It's like it's emblazoned with a pure light that just makes it so different.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Hi, Bonnie, thanks for coming in. Hi, Chrissy. Lovely to see you here. Yay.
Those of you, by the way, Susie did a great job responding to all of your comments last time. I went back to try to answer and respond to everybody, and I couldn't find the comments. So I'm going to have to play around with this. StreamYard has updated a lot of things, so I need to find out why I couldn't find your comments afterwards to respond to. But we got started today by sharing a couple stories we have where the angels have swooped in literally and impacted our physical reality and saved us and helped us. And one of the ways that you can have validation that it is angels is like in your story, Susie, where you and your friend both saw the light. Both saw the color. And, so one of the things we want to encourage you guys to do is look for evidential things in your connection and your communication and your signs from spirit, so that you do have that cognitive human egoic mind validation for what really has to be personal validation for non-physical.
Absolutely. And for me, I think it's don't just look for it in that ethereal sort of energy, in the energetic way as well. Just be open to what you see around you. A particular thing that's coming to mind for me was earlier this year. I was spending a lot of time working with Jophiel, or Jophiel, however you wish to pronounce it. Now, this beautiful angel, most people refer to Jophiel as a she. I try not to refer, if I can, to male and female, because it's all about the energy that they present themselves with in that moment when they're working with you or coming to you. But so I was working with Jophiel, and I'm going to refer to her as a she because that's what's coming through. She was bringing in this lovely, joyful, bright yellow energy, because at the time I very much needed that because of what was going on in my life at that time. And I always go, well, come on then, just show me, just give me a little bit of validation that I am connecting with you, that it is you that I'm connected with. Because we do question ourselves, again, coming back to what Larkin says about the egoic mind. You work with your angels, you start to bring them forth, and then you go, am I really? Is it? Are they? And you question. And that's naturally part of who we are as human beings. So of course I was doing this right. Am I? Aren't I? The next day I received this huge, great big envelope. And over here we have a lot of charities that send you packaging, little free gifts and things like that. Just to encourage you, obviously, to sort of donate or join their charity or whatever. Anyway, this envelope arrived the following day, and inside it was a great big yellow poster with a huge, great big yellow daffodil on it there was a yellow brooch, a daffodil brooch, and then there was all these lovely little stickers with daffodils and the color yellow. And I just was like, yeah, thank you. That's my answer. So just be open to seeing what comes in around you. And the experience I had with that was very early on when I started working with angels. My mentor taught me, look for things around you. And I think at the time I was working with Gabriel, and I walked down the shop, past the shops, and there was this huge, great big poster in the window of this golden model, all dressed in gold and beautiful features and all of that. And I was like, okay, I get it. I start to see things now. And that's one of the ways that you can then sort of, I feel, validate that you're working with an angel, that they come into you, because sometimes we can quite often question ourselves and go, well, I'm not sure. Did I? Was there a connection? I didn't feel anything, because sometimes we don't. The energy is so gentle, so subtle, and we can be so caught up in our thought processes that we miss that feeling. And by then going out and looking for a sort of material validation, I feel, can really help us understand that we are connecting.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's such good point, Susie. Chrissy said, going to take some friends. Is that okay? Yes, please.
Absolutely. Yes, please. The more the merrier. Let's make it an angel party. We love that.
Yeah, I think,
Thank you.
we're doing this because, we want to reach those people that want and need this. And we're coming from such a pure place with this, and trying to come in a neutral place with this, so that, you guys each have your own spiritual connection, energetic connection already to non-physical, already to the angels. I want to remind you that, hi, Eva, welcome.
Hi, Eva.
For joining us. You guys, it's so important, and we will remind you every broadcast. It's hard as humans to remember. We think of the beginning of ourselves as our birth here in this world. Hey, Bonnie, love you, girl.
Hi.
But that's not where you began. You were existing for eternity prior to this human birth. And you will exist for eternity after. You are an aspect of God's source energy. And so the angels that you interact with, the spirit guides you're interacting with, the souls that you're here in life, that's okay, Chrissy. Thank you for tagging them. That's wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks.
The beings that you know and interact with, you've always known. So here in this life, you have amnesia, so you can experience this particular world in this body with this brain and this programming and this environment. And if you dragged all the baggage from past lives and you remembered everything else, it just wouldn't be the same experience. So when you're connecting to your spirit guides and your angels, you're really relearning, you're rediscovering, you're becoming reacquainted from this current state that you're in with these archangels. And so once you make the connection and the link in your own special way, that's a link you've actually already had. It will become easier. And Susie mentioned subtleties. Remember, psychic abilities, mediumship, your ability to connect, you all already have intuition. It's just an advanced intuition. And it's really just learning to pick up on the subtleties. And then guess what? They become more obvious like they are to us. So, yay.
So if you have any questions, ladies, you'll have to excuse the bangs in the background. We celebrate Guy Fawkes Day here. It's supposed to be on November the 5th, but it carries on from like 2 days before and about a week after.
Yeah.
So
it's a big deal. I remember from living it. Yes. Yes.
The occasional firework going off. So hopefully it won't be as bad as it was on Saturday night. But yeah. Any questions, just pop them in the comments. We'd love to hear or even your stories. What angel experiences have you had? Because I mean, obviously Larkin and I can just share ad infinitum as to the experiences we have. One of the things to understand about working with the angels, though, is that they are there to guide and support us. They are there to help us through our daily lives, but they are not there to intervene, unless, of course, you know, there is something that you're still meant to stay here to do, as with Larkin's husband. You know, he could have been seriously injured or worse in that car accident. He wasn't, not a cut or scrape or bruise, you know, so there is a reason that that's happened. I've had 2 or 3 personal experiences where I could have not been here, but for one reason or another, the angels chose to step in and prevent that from happening. Because I've had people question and say, well, if that's the case, why did so-and-so not survive that? Why did they have that happen to them and the angels didn't help? That's a whole nother process and story, or not story, but a journey to understand that, you know, when we come here, we have made choices prior to arriving here as to what our journey will take. So yeah. So Chrissy has a little question for us.
She does have a question, and I want to quick add in though first before I forget with what Susie just said, because this is so important. I bet I'm gonna forget it now. Shoot. No, this is really important. Yeah, I want to just quick through this in before I forget so we can focus more on Chrissy's question. We got to always remember, just kind of extending on what Susie said, our free will is always a part of this. So when we are asking, why did so-and-so not make it, but this person did? Or why didn't they help me with this? Remember how limited your perception currently is. Spirit always knows better, which is why it's important to trust. Okay. And it's important to trust spirit and your own experiences, your own intuition, which is spirit speaking through you, right? Your higher self speaking through you. And we also have made our higher selves, our eternal conscious self that isn't all filtering through our little human mind and ego, right? Our greater self is also making choices, and it's aware of more than what your cognitive mind is. So oftentimes, you know, your free will and your greater eternal conscious awareness is making choices with spirit guides, with angels, with source on your behalf. And it really is you. It may not be your egoic mind. Hi, Tracy. Welcome.
Hi, Tracy.
Thanks for joining us. But just keep that in mind as well. And we don't always understand the whys immediately, but oftentimes as life unfolds, we have a greater understanding if we don't have too much resistance. And when we cross back over into non-physical, we always receive all those answers that we had wanted when we're here. We just understand. Okay. So Chrissy says, I do have a question. Last night, I felt a spirit yelled in a deep voice in my ear, and I was falling asleep. Could this be an angel? So, what was it yelling is an interesting term to use. Do you know what the spirit or the voice was saying, Chrissy? You know what it was saying to you? Hi, Rachel. Welcome.
Hi, Tracy and Rachel.
The reason I'm asking this is because let's see, she says,
she's not answered yet. We'll just wait.
Got
so
it.
on that, as well as that question, I always ask the question, what do I feel? Who do I feel it was? So that would be my first question to Chrissy is, what is your first answer? What is it? If you ask yourself that question, what do you feel? Was it angelic or was it spirit? Which one feels right to you?
The other thing is I think maybe I'm missing something here, because she says, I didn't make it out, but it made my heart beat like crazy. So what do you mean you didn't make it out? I didn't see anything about that in the comments.
I'm assuming she didn't make out the voice.
Oh, okay. If you guys are both from the UK, that would be it. I'm thinking you didn't make it out of the building. You didn't make it out of the it definitely is, even though I lived over there.
Couldn't tell what it said. Okay.
You know what it means, yeah.
So
okay.
My question for you, Chrissy, is what do you believe? Do you feel or believe it was angelic or spirit? Take the first thought that comes to mind. Because these are, as much as we can tune in, work with the energy that you're presenting us with, it's not that we're being obtuse, but what we want to do is for you to be able to develop your own knowing. And if we answer that question for you immediately, without you having the opportunity to try and tune in and get a sense of what it is for yourself, where I feel, and I think Larkin will agree with me, is we're taking it away from you. We're not giving you the opportunity to try and to start to work with this energetic vibration that's coming through.
So here's some guidance for doing that, okay? And we will give you more answers to this, but Susie's point is so important because in truth, what we do is important, but it's most powerful and important to allow you guys to build this development on your own. It is so vital. Let's see. Hold on, Rachel. I do see you're commenting too. Let's see. Chrissy said, first thought was bad because I felt paralyzed for a minute, but after I came to, I felt it was trying to communicate. Yeah. So let me comment on two things. Number one, what Susie just was talking about in summary is like, when you begin to know what questions to ask, it will help you better be able to identify more quickly and easily who and what it was. The other thing is that the paralyzed, let me talk about the being paralyzed for a moment, because I've had this come up in several groups recently that I've been reading for. There are several things that can happen with that. Number one, if you were doing an astral plane interaction, a lot of times your senses will bring your conscious mind back to consciousness. If you're sleeping and let's say you're having an interaction in the astral plane, if you're yanked back or you're jerked back by something sensory, what will happen is you'll be conscious before your nervous system has completely like reawakened. And so that's actually very common if you're coming out of a sleep state. So please do not think, and I'm adding a reading aspect into this, this was not a being paralyzing you. So let's just eliminate that fear right away. And then you can continue with what Susie's guiding you to do here. This being was not trying to paralyze you or keep you from moving. And that's the first thing a lot of people think. And then they become fearful of spirit or a voice. This is very, very common when you've had an out-of-body experience or an astral plane interaction. And it just simply means that your conscious mind is boom, back online before your nervous system is. Okay. So
can I add a little bit to that as well? What happens is when we have a sense of something around us that we don't know what it is, our natural autonomic response, which is our central nervous response to that immediate, and this is how quickly our body goes into fight or flight, to that immediate response, the paralysis feeling will have come because your body went in that moment, went into fight or flight. It's a bit like that sense of you wake up and you feel like there's somebody in the room, and your first thought, and I had this personal experience as well, so I know that I can say this hand on heart. The first thought is, there's somebody in my room, am I being burgled? And as strange as that sounds, that's what actually happened to me. So I understand why you got that feeling of paralysis, because that was your body's central nervous system taking you into that response. But as Larkin was saying, if you understand that, then that eliminates the fear, and the paralysis will not, you'll probably get it in the future if it happens again, because it's a natural body response. But when you understand that it's the natural body response, then you can move into going, okay, I'm open, you're here. What do you want? And I had this experience quite a few years ago when I was new to learning all of this, following my journey, and laid in bed, and I'd fallen asleep, and the next thing I did was wake up thinking there's somebody in the room, because I felt this presence. I'm very much a knowing, is my sort of sense, my strongest sense. So I didn't see or hear anything, but I just knew and felt this presence. And in the moment, my body went into paralysis, and I'm like, somebody's in the room, I'm being burgled. And then in an instant, I realized it wasn't that, because this all happens in like milliseconds. And then, so I laid there and I was like, thank you for being here. Who's present? I know I'm safe. I know I'm protected. What do you want? And in that moment, the whole feeling just disappeared. The heaviness went, the feeling went, and my room felt fine again. So I think sometimes they come in to just also show us that they're here, because if we're learning and growing, we have these experiences, because if we don't have them, we don't get to understand what's happening and how to process. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense as well. Coming back to your initial question, me personally, I feel it was a spirit presence that was coming in. So I get a sense of you're developing your own sort of spiritual clairvoyance, clairsentience, that sort of thing. And this is they come and teach us lessons almost in the strangest of ways sometimes. So I hope that's helping a little bit. I seem to have lost my way a little bit with the...
Yeah, we have all these wonderful comments. I know I want to get to Rachel, I want to get to Tracy, but I do want to throw in here, Chrissy, I second, this is the fun thing about having both of us on here, guys, when we give you feedback. One of the things Susie and I love to do is we get the same stuff. And that should be even more validation for you, right, of what's coming in, because we'll get it at the same time. You'll see one of us nodding. I totally agree with Susie. I don't believe it was an angel. And I believe that it was a spirit. I don't believe it was a spirit guide. I believe it was a spirit, but a benevolent spirit, someone that you knew, or a soul that you knew, or a spirit teacher. And here's the thing is that you'll, as Susie was saying, as you develop this more strongly, you're going to learn, just know. You're going to be like, how do I know? Like, you guys could ask us, how do we know? You just know. It becomes a very innate thing. First of all, angels, you'd probably have an entirely different experience with them. The fact that you use the term yelling was a big indicator to me that I know and can see that you're surrounded by love and you're protected. You don't have any dark demons or bad energies coming to you or anything like that. And so if it was a yelling, it wasn't an angel. I can tell you that for sure. You're not going to get that. And typically your spirit guides won't do that either, unless they're trying to really save you from something. My personal feeling is that you were having an astral projection experience. And what Susie said, that they're trying to help you develop your awareness and your powers. And they're trying to, what I'm seeing very strongly is that they're trying to help you link the experiences that you may not remember in the spirit world, in your dreams, in the astral planes, in the messages that they're getting to you. They're trying to help you link those with your waking conscious mind. And one of the ways that they did that was by yelling, which caught your attention, which woke you up, which gave you the paralyzed feeling. And now you're talking to us about it. What has that done? That's made you more conscious. It's made you ask a question. And now you know that they're there. And that is clearly what, for me, what's coming in that experience.
Before we move on to Rachel, because we would like to obviously get to as many of you as possible, I'd just like to finish off here with the fact that this happened as you were sleeping or just drifting into sleep. When we move through our alpha, beta, and theta waves, our brain starts to relax, the mind starts to drift. We start into the subconscious. And people refer to it as the veil and all sorts of different terminologies. But when we're in that almost, I can't remember the word now, I was going to say symbolic state, but I don't think that's right. But when we're in that sort of half in, half out sleep state, that is one of the times that spirit and the angels can come to us more closely and really make their presence felt. The other way to do this practice, and I'm sure this is something you perhaps already do, Rachel, is meditation. Because when you drop your brain waves down to a point where they're moving slowly and they're more relaxed, and Larkin is a specialist on this subject, but this is my sort of layman's understanding of meditation. That's when you can make those connections strengthen. So thank you very much for sharing that little gem. And I hope it's helped you a little bit. And obviously there'll be more of these conversations.
Yeah, let us know. We want to always give you guys, things you can do to help pay attention to and learn and grow from these things. Yeah. Keep us posted on your experiences.
Absolutely. So moving on, Rachel, first of all, sending you lots of love and healing, sweetheart, for your throat and sore throat. It's that time of year now, isn't it? I'm guessing you have the same. I don't know where you are in the world, but certainly here in the UK, the weather's gone from lovely and warm to cold and wet and windy. So yeah, time for, but lots of love sending out for that. And hopefully you're just treating yourself gently, calmly, and with not so nice little treats of honey and lemon. One of my favorite go-tos. Yes. But Rachel's saying she recently lost a family member. She has a mobile phone and it went off last night. There's no SIM card in it and the phone went off. I would love to think that that was her. I'm open to spirit and smell fresh baking right now and have heard my name being shouted. So these are all wonderful ways that spirit can connect with us. You having that mobile phone, knowing that there's no SIM card in it, knowing that it couldn't possibly ring, and it rings, to me is a beautiful way of that family member bringing you their energy in and saying, hi, I'm here. Yeah. And then your other ones, your baking bread, the smell of baking, who does that remind you of? Is that linked to this family member as well? So, there's lots of lovely little ways that spirit can connect with us and show us that they're around. And I feel when you have those moments, if you can, just sit quietly and just thank them for showing you that they're there. Because the one thing spirit loves to have, in my experience, is acknowledgement. You hear stories of people saying, oh, well, I get this constant knocking or this constantly happens. And I'm like, well, did you say thank you? Did you welcome them? Did you say, I hear you? Did you acknowledge them? And they, well, no, I didn't like it or I wasn't happy about it. And 9 times out of 10, the people that I've shared that with, and I've said the next time it happens, just acknowledge them. Just say, hi, thank you, welcome. Have you got a message for me? Sometimes they might have, sometimes they may not. They do simply just want to go, hi. Mm-hmm. And it stopped when they've done that, when they've acknowledged who it is and that there's their presence, all that little gentle tapping or the noise or whatever is stopped for them. And then they come back and they're like, I don't get that anymore. How do I know they're still around? So then we do a whole different process of getting them to understand how they can then connect with that beautiful remembrance of whoever in spirit.
Absolutely. I think that, Susie said exactly what I was feeling too, which was, wow, look how many things that you've received. And that's another way that you can get some really practical validation is, it's like you didn't just get one sign or message. You're receiving, spirit is coming through in several ways, right? Through technology, through something that you can see, hear, and touch, with your phone, through, this sense of smell, through the sense of, clairaudience, where you're hearing or you're really hearing things. And so there's a couple little things I hear people say that I want to kind of clear up to help you also use this for your own validation, Rachel. It's not always like when people hear or they have lights flickering or they have technology doing funny things. It's not always spirit. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, yeah, it's always spirit. But I think in your case, I definitely sense that it is. Susie seems to feel the same way. And the great thing about it is that just in case you missed it, like us humans do, spirit was coming through and giving you several ways. So it couldn't be ignored. word. And one of the things that spirit uses to get through to us is repetition. Because as human beings, it is survival that we are skeptical. It is survival that we want and need proof. And so that's actually a healthy thing. The cynicism isn't, the skepticism is. So when you have a soul that can come through and or spirit guides, even, they'll do this too, that'll come through and give you multiple sensory validation. And spirit tends to be repetitive and consistent. And so, that to you can help you relax, put your mind at ease. And the gratitude and the trusting it is very important. The other thing is, I've heard people say, well, I've heard mediums share that souls, when they've crossed over, have to wait a certain amount of time to come through to you. Okay, there is no time and space on the other side.
No.
So it doesn't mean these aren't real mediums or real psychics, but what I find is that very often they kind of taint the real information and message with what their ego is telling them, with what they've been programmed in their mind to believe. And this isn't a criticism of other psychics or mediums. It's just something to keep in mind, especially on your own pursuit, that, you really have to ask, okay, what really is spirit and what is my human mind just thinking because I've heard? Spirits, from the moment they've crossed over, they can come through to you. Okay. And it doesn't matter how long they've been gone. Your ancestors that died hundreds or thousands of years ago can come through to you, because there is no time and space. They can choose any framework, past or future, that they want to interact with us. Okay. So yeah, that's wonderful.
So Tracy has replied and said yes to the questions that I asked, and she loved baking. So that's wonderful. It just makes me go all lovely and
scroll down here and look
sort of gooey.
Second.
We'll move on.
We've got, you mean Rachel did? Okay, got it.
Yeah, sorry, Rachel. My apologies. Did I say Tracy? That's because I was reading Tracy's message.
I started Tracy's.
So we've just put Tracy up as our next question or share.
Okay, you got it. Here we go.
Yeah. So
okay, great. Oh, okay, I'll read it. I've had a breakthrough with connecting with a spirit finally, but the last 2 weeks I have felt nothing in my development class. I couldn't connect. I can't seem to connect or see them in my mind. What am I doing wrong? And Tracy, so many people have these feelings and this question. So you're definitely not alone on this, for sure. Susie, did you want to start with that, or would you like
I'm just gonna pop up the rest of this that Tracy's now sharing, because I think the two comments that she's put here.
Oh yeah, I see that. I didn't see that one. Okay,
they just popped up. So I think the two are just a flow.
They do.
So I've only been connecting with spirit for 2 months, although I've been on my spiritual path for 2 years, trying to develop an open to spirit. I feel like it's stopped. In my practice circle, I couldn't connect at all. I feel I've lost it. From my personal experience, I call these our peaks and troughs of spiritual growth, because when you start, and my journey began nearly 30 years ago now, and I'm still having times when I don't connect. And there can be a variety of reasons for that. But what's coming through for me, for you, Tracy, with regards to this, is there was something that you were doing in these 2 months while you've been going to your circle, your group, whatever you wish to call it, that you have been doing to help you develop that connection. And it feels to me that it's time to just keep those practices going. It's a bit like, how can I describe it? We have to repeat what we're learning. We have to do what, as Larkin said earlier about repetition. Spirit will repeat. We also have to learn to do repeat as well. So, it might be that you just need to keep practicing with your meditation, whatever tool you were practicing with in that moment. As you know, there are all the different clairs. So in total, there are 8 types of clairs that we can use, 6 of which are our sort of natural senses of sight, sound, smell, and those hearing, etc., and vision, and so on. And we can't learn them all at once. My mentor once said to me, and it's always stuck with me 20 odd years later, you put a plate of dinner, of food in front of you. You've got the most beautiful meal, be it your favorite meal, whatever that might be. Would you pick up the plate and tip the whole lot of food at once into your mouth? No, you wouldn't. You would take bite-sized pieces and you would enjoy what you were eating in that moment. So my sense is that the reason you're not making that connection at the moment is that there was something that you were going through development-wise in that process that they want you to focus on and keep on practicing with. It may also be as well that life gets in the way sometimes. We have other things that we need to focus on and do, and they give us a break. It's like, okay, you've learned this much. We need you to keep practicing that little bit of whatever it is you've learned. But we also see that there's things going on in your material world, your relationships, your life, your work, whatever. And we need you to take time to focus on sorting that out. You know, hence, I don't know if you caught at the very beginning, I apologize for us not being here last Monday because I had a family crisis and I had to go and deal with that. While I've been dealing with the family these past, it's been a few weeks, I have felt a disconnect. And you do, because we need to take that break, so to speak. So I hope that makes sense. And Larkin, over to you.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I mean, to be honest, guys, like, you know, we're sharing our experiences with you, but we're also sharing what comes through for us intuitively and from spirit when we're answering your questions. And after doing this a long time, it's very clear to us, you know, how and what we need to share with you. And we could take just this one the comment, Tracy, that you have that's posted up here, and literally we could spend 2 hours on just this portion of it. So it's amazing. But a couple things. Obviously, we can only give you little nuggets as much as we can possibly, you know, fit in the time that we have here. But everything Susie said, I second that. And also, you know, it's important moving forward to really step back and observe your thinking, observe your perspective, observe how it's influenced by the world you live in, the people you interact with, even the people training your mediumship or you know, spiritual classes, because how much of that is tainted with our egoic judgment and programming. In other words, innocent little tiny things like underneath your question is and we all do this. This is not a put down for you. Underneath it is the assumption that there should not be a break in your ability to connect with spirit consciously, which means I'm telling you, you're not actually as disconnected as you think. The 95% of your mind that is your subconscious and you're unaware of is still processing and doing its own programming. Your conscious mind, your eternal consciousness that only comes through usually in intuition, or if you're channeling or doing a reading, because your 5% of your conscious mind is so active all the time, it's so noisy. Not just in you, Tracy, but in all of us. It's so noisy that what we hear is, oh my God, I'm not connecting to spirit. I must have lost it. Oh my gosh. And then we go down this rabbit hole. When in reality, you are probably every bit as connected as you were 2 months ago. You are receiving things subconsciously that you're not even aware of. You are needing to focus on maybe whatever's going on in your life or learn something like Susie suggested. But it is our resistance to not having the connection in the way. I'm trying to say this slowly because it's so simple to me, but for people, it's not always easy to hear this for the first time. It's the way we're looking at it. So the solution to that is to become very comfortable with understanding that it's all a process. You're always in process. And just as you're going up a mountain It's little hills. As you go up the mountain, you're going to go up a little bit and then back down and up a little bit and then down and up a little bit. And eventually you get to the top, and it's never ending. I mean, you'll go back to the spirit world and you'll still have lifetimes worth to still learn. But just know that you are still connected. It will come back. I would recommend, awesome, Tracy. I would recommend that you don't try so hard and you relax. When you relax and you don't worry about it, it tends to come back easier. And yeah, family issues, and understand, like Susie said earlier, spirit is here to help you make good decisions, follow your intuition, be love, be the best version of yourself. So oftentimes they shift from seeming to be this spiritual magical interaction to helping you deal with practical things like family issues. Okay. So don't worry, you're not doing anything wrong.
No, not at all. And one of the things I've learned, and it's taken me a lot of years to learn this, is because, as Larkin says, when you do get that sense that you're not connected, you do take yourself down the rabbit hole and you think, oh, I've lost it, I'm never going to be able to do it again. I mean, I had it probably a year or so ago, that feeling of disconnect. And I will be honest and say, I was like, right, that's it. You're gone. You're not here. You're not with me. I got to the point where I spat my dummy out, and I was like, right, not working with you anymore. You've left me. I've gone. But what I didn't realize at the time, there was so much going on in my life at that time that I had needed to focus on the reality of what was taking place in my life, because if I hadn't, it would have made me ill. And I needed that time out from doing the spiritual work that I was doing to focus, because I was helping others. And one of the things we all love to do when we're doing this work eventually is have this dream, this vision, this goal, whatever you want to call it, of being here to help others. You know, that is an innate and natural part of all of us. You know, even those that don't come into this world, if you like, you know, they help others in different ways. But when we get to understand the spiritual wealth that we have, you know, when we connect our mind, body and spirit, we all of a sudden have this inner knowing that we're here to help somebody else, be it one person, be it millions of people, however we are going to shine our light. And I had that many years ago, and gradually over time, I realized that importantly, and again, Larkin touched on it, we are the important person in our life. We need to look after ourselves. We need to be able to bring ourselves into balance. And if we forget that, and we're so focused on doing our spiritual work, connecting and helping others, and we forget about ourselves, spirit will go, okay, time out, in a nice way, not in a, you've been naughty, I'm going to sit you on the naughty steps sort of time out, but just time out. And the way they do that is they will step back. But as Larkin again mentioned earlier, you look around you, the signs are there that they're still around. You will see it in the subtleties of a book that you read, a conversation you overhear, a colour that you see walking down the street, be it whether it's connected to spirit or the angels. You know, it might be for example, my husband passed away at the age of 38, 29 years ago. And through my processes of getting where I am today, I don't memorialize him. I know when his birthday is, but quite often his birthday will have gone. And then all of a sudden I'll get a little nudge. And his favorite thing for me was a red rose. And somebody will give me a picture of a rose, or I'll see a rose and I'll go, oh, it was Bob's birthday last week. So in his way, he was just giving me that gentle nudge that he's around still. So it's about understanding that these peaks and troughs happen because we need them, not because you've got a huge disconnect going on. So I hope that makes sense. Lovely. So that's true. Thank you, Tracy. That was a great question. And yeah, it's always lovely to share our experiences. I did see, okay, so Debbie, so we've got Debbie Hitchcock's here. I want to get back to my mediumship, but I'm struggling as to which direction to take. Oh, Debbie, that's a biggie. That's a whole big world of what direction to take. And I think for me would need more than just a little quick conversation on here. But I would say that if it's your initial first step, spend time just in quiet contemplation. Think about what inspires you. Grab a journal. Journaling is great, random thoughts, just pop them down. But what is it that you love to do? For many years, I always believed I wasn't an artist. I was told at school that I shouldn't do art as a study because I'd never make an artist. And for years, I believed that. And then through work and the angels and all of that over the years, I have developed my artistic creativity. And I find that's a way that helped me find which direction I was going to take. Because remember, we sit and we look at all those around us and what they do, and we think that's what we've got to do because that's the way mediumship works. Mediumship for me might be different for what it is for you. I still am not quite sure which direction I go in, but I just do my artwork, I do my journaling, I do my writing, I share my space, we share our space, Larkin and I, we bounce off each other, and we're finding a direction now. Now, for me, this has taken almost 30 years to find. I'm not saying yours will take that long. We're all unique, we're all individual, we're all different. But I guess the starting place for you would be, think about what you did when you were doing your mediumship work. What was it that you found was your strongest, your strength in that? And now think about what it is that you feel inspired by. What do you love? And I don't just mean in spirit work or mediumship work. I mean in life, in, hobbies, things like that. And then just sit. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll just share Debbie's next comment.
We're both doing it at the same time.
So I think we've cancelled.
We're arguing over which one we're sharing.
I think we cancelled. So yeah. So okay. I'll hand over to Larkin for this point.
Okay. Last time I was working, I became overwhelmed with people talking all the time. Taking all the time.
So
okay.
I
know I edited it in my head because I was like, this doesn't make sense. I became exhausted. Will I be okay to be choosy as to where I work?
Okay.
Or privately?
Oh, I know I said I was handing over to you, but absolutely 100% be as choosy as you wish. Oh my God. I am being inspired. I'm going goosebumpy from head to foot because this is such an important point for you. Larkin will go into more of this as well. But, and the next one. Yes. Okay. Please be very choosy. When I started out on my journey, I started off with spiritualist churches. I worked on platform in the churches. Lots of stories to go on there. Lots of egos, lots of energy. Didn't serve me, so I left. So then I tried private, but of course I don't know whether you're in the UK or whether you're in the States or where you are, Debbie. But for me here in the UK, our only other option, if we did private work, was more to go and work in pubs. Whole different ball game, whole different energy. And again, I had to stop because of that feeling of having it being taken all the time. So yeah, in answer to that question, 100%, be as choosy as you want. You will find your direction. Off you go, Larkin, before I put the next question.
I know. It's okay. I'm just holding my self-control here because I want to jump in all over this too. When I first saw Debbie's question, I mean, we could go on for hours about all these things.
Absolutely.
So
bless your heart. Oh my God, this was so me so many years ago. In the end, but it's all about boundaries. Larkin loves to share about boundaries.
It's okay. But I can take off if you want to talk.
for me, I had the same. I had people texting me all hours of the night. I do a reading and then they come back and they say, can I have more, and more, to the point that eventually I put a message on my phone saying, I only work between the hours of, after that time, I am not available. And if I feel it's appropriate or essential, I will get back to you, but it will be within the next 24 to 48 hours. And that helped me with that side of things as well, because people will come and take. So it's very much about getting those boundaries in place. So over to you, Larkin.
Are you sure? No, this is so exciting for both of us, guys. I'm just holding my self-control in here so I don't bubble over. I think Susie and I have both been through all of this a lot. And to be quite honest with you guys, I could have been doing this exact work I'm doing right now with this intensity as my way of making a living over 20 years ago. And the only reason I didn't is because of what you're talking about, Debbie. It was my mindset and my boundaries. It was feeling pressure to, for example, and by the way, I'm going to throw this out there too, because what I did instead was I used my intuitive psychic mediumship abilities in other ways or for like a hobby on the side. And I went more the direction of coaching. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on all this training. I taught women for over 15 years how to build their businesses and change their mindset and all this stuff. Do you know why? Because it was safer. And my coaches gave me a platform. This is what you charge. This is what you do. The good part about that was it trained me to have boundaries. It trained me to do sales. It trained me to ask for money for my services, which, by the way, is okay to do if you're spiritual. Okay. It's not a bad thing. If I didn't charge for my services, I would be out on the street. I couldn't do animal rescue. I couldn't take care of my pets. I couldn't go to the doctor. You have to make a living somehow. So it's a matter of doing it conscientiously, right? So like Susie and I are trying to put together something for exactly like those of you that are on here today, where there's like an inexpensive program where people that have your questions that are building their abilities can work their way up to it, right? It's reasonable. That's not $30,000 for 8 weeks. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with all of that, but I went through the same thing you and Susie did. I still do right now. I have people message me from the groups of free readings that I do. And they're like, can I message you? And they'll message me and they ask me all these questions. They want readings. And the truth of the matter is, and you need to keep this in mind, Debbie, if you'll do exactly what you did, like where you shut down your Facebook, right? I literally remember getting on and doing live readings on my Larkin Psychic Medium page just a few years ago. And I was flooded. For 4 hours, I sat there and did readings. And the truth is not one of those people cared about me or my well-being. They all were frantic for their reading. And spirit flowed through me and the readings are beautiful. I gave myself a migraine because next thing you know, it was 1 a.m. My husband was waiting for me. There were still a line as far as I can see of people wanting readings. So understand that you first have to be very clear about setting your boundaries. It's funny, Susie said I was into boundaries. I didn't even think I was going to talk about boundaries, but that's what's coming through.
It is. It's very much about the boundaries for yourself.
It is.
You have to, because it's important for your well-being, and sorry to interrupt, but it almost, you get to the point where you feel that you're here to do this work, whatever this work is, in whatever way, shape or form it takes for you. And you know that you love to help others. You want to help others. Larkin and I are both the same. We want to help inspire people, help them find their way, through whatever format that might be. And of course, initially we do start off, I think we all start there at that point of we're giving readings, and then it evolves into other things. But even so, it's something that you're passionate about. It's something that comes from deep within you. And when you don't do it, you get this sense of not pain or hurt, but almost like there's this little sense that something's missing, that something, and so of course, and that's where you start to feel the disconnect as well, because I personally, for me, when I had, yes, loss, when I had this, I felt frustration and anger sometimes,
Resentment.
resentment, because I was giving, and people were just taking. But on the other hand, I was then feeling guilt because I'm saying to spirit and the angels, you know, God, the divine, whoever it is you work with. And I was going, why am I feeling like this? I shouldn't be feeling like this. I'm here to help people. I'm here to give readings and do what I can to help. But I feel all these emotions and I don't. And then I got to the point where I was like, but I don't like myself because of what was going on. And yeah, they do shut you down, you know, and then you feel like you've lost your way a little bit. And it's all about, I learned blessedly before I met Larkin, but since being and working with Larkin, and we've become really good friends these past few years, I've learned so much about boundary setting, you know, and about putting it in and being who I want to be for me and do what I want to do. Because there will always be somebody out there that will come and say, can you just? And you do. And they're so grateful. They thank you from the bottom of their heart. And sometimes that's all it needs. It doesn't have to come in the form of cash. You know, it can be an energy exchange in a different way. And you just know, because I always said, if I help one person, then I've done my job here. And I think that every time now, if I help one person, I've done my job. I don't have to help thousands or millions, because that one person becomes another one person, becomes another one person, and on it goes. So for you, Debbie, I do feel very much this is about your boundary setting. And when you get your boundaries in place, you really find out what it is that you want to do and how you want to do it. And you do it because it's right for you. Things will change and life will begin to flow with ease and grace.
Now, I want to throw in, first of all, spirit does not shut you down. Spirit never shuts you down. You shut you down. Your ego shuts you down. Spirit will never shut you down because you always have a connection. When we think we've lost our connection, it is always on our end. It is always something in our ego, something in our subconscious, that 95% of your mind you're not aware of. Remember, you are eternal consciousness here. You are mind and brain, your brain here, and your mind is in the middle. Your mind is the ego. It's not a bad thing. It's there to protect you, but you have to learn to use it as a tool. So your whole life is going to be learning to use your mind as a tool in a way that allows you to be who you really are and the best version of who you really are here. And so spirit does not shut you down, even though that's what it feels like. You shut you down. Okay. And that's okay. What needs to happen here, I'm going to give you a few steps. Okay. It is not easy. And you're going to find many times where you literally are faced with, remember, obstacles are opportunities. So if you want to get on the other side of this, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. The reason you have trouble with these boundaries is because it is outside of your comfort zone. Whatever it is you want out of this, a profession, just the fulfillment of helping people for free, to make a living out of it, whatever it is you want is always on the other side of your comfort zone. And so whenever you find you have a block and you're not getting there, it's because there are choices and actions that you're not making and following through with that are outside of that comfort zone. It's really that simple. Okay. Now, the work itself is not simple. The work itself is hard. I mean, I just had to do it again since I finally decided, nope, I'm ditching doing just the coaching. After all these decades of doing what I do, I'm shifting into this, the psychic medium work and spiritual coaching. I'm getting out of the corporate and business coaching, right? I just made that shift this past year. And so I've literally had to respond to people on my messenger. I'm eventually going to put an automated system up that says, Messenger is not for free readings. Here are your options. Thank you so much, because there's no possible way you can do that. So what you're going to be faced with is a choice each time where you have to, and this is hard, but you have to want the results of getting out of your comfort zone more than you want the fear and discomfort that's keeping you there. Right? So you got to get clear, find out what is it that's keeping you in that comfort zone, that's keeping you from overcoming this. And then what is it? What do you need to decide and do in order to create those boundaries? And then uphold them, because everybody will always take what they can for free. And that doesn't make them bad people. Most of them probably have a victim mentality of some kind. We all do to some extent. And it's not a negative thing on their part. It's just that it's like if you are the doorman at a restaurant or the doorwoman at a restaurant, or like when I worked at the zoo, we had jungle trails. There'd be 300 people waiting to get in. I was allowed to let 20 people in at a time. I had to be the gatekeeper. I had to say. Now, it was easy because I worked for the zoo. And if the people didn't listen to me, I could call security. Guess what? You got to be your own security. But once you do it and you realize that the wrong people that you can't serve might fuss with you and fall away, and you can just block them on Facebook. You should see the list of people I got blocked. Or if they're the right people, they'll come to you.
Yeah.
Because what you want is you want to actually repulse, is that you want to
repel.
Thank you. Repel the wrong people. And you will then be attracted to the right people that you can really serve. And I hope that helps. Use those steps and just stick to them and do what Susie said. Be choosy. Start with something small. Start with a small group. You can control who's in that group on Facebook. You can control who is, start and practice with a small group you're comfortable with. And then as you test those boundaries, you can expand to bigger audiences like we do. So.
Absolutely.
Sorry we get on a roll, guys, but we both, when spirit flows through us and it answers your questions, we just get going.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's great, Debbie. Thank you for that question. You're not alone on this.
No, it's I think it's an age-old, shall we say, story for all of us that move into this area of work.
Yeah.
And I think some of it, for me, when you look back over the years, over the centuries, how mediumship has grown and developed, it's changed for us now. It's not, shall we say, in the days. Oh, you're very welcome, Debbie. It's not. Mediumship has evolved. I'm trying to find the words to put it into. The days of the Fox sisters, when they heard the knocking on the wall, and that's what first started mediumship growing, moving through from like Doris Stokes to Dolores Cannon and all those beautiful mediums that have worked all those years ago. It was different then, because I feel, for me personally, what they were doing was proving life after death. And that was what was important about mediumship work all those years, centuries ago. Now, I would say a good proportion of the world understands and knows that there is a concept of life after death, that there is more to what we see and perceive in the physical. So I feel mediumship is a way now. We need to change the word, I think, somehow, because we're all just working with that flow of energy, and that energy is moving. I don't even like the word channel sometimes, but it's a descriptive word, and that's what we rely on, isn't it? Is descriptive words. So I think for most of us now, we are a channel of some form, and that doesn't necessarily have to be defined by the word mediumship. And we just need to move away from the old ways of doing things and finding what works for us. Because I don't know if it was something you said the other day, Larkin, but one size does not fit all. We're all different. We have our own unique perspectives and ways of working, of connecting, and of just being. So it's about, I feel, tuning into you, going within, finding what it is that resonates for you. What do you love? What inspires you? You know, there's that phrase, isn't there? What makes your heart sing? And then work with that. Sit, meditate, quiet contemplation, walks in nature, whatever you do that you find your balance. And then just ask the question and just allow it to evolve. Don't expect an immediate answer. Sometimes that answer comes months, weeks, years later. But just go with the flow. And, you know, and there's nothing wrong either. I used to think, oh my God, I've decided this is my label. This is what I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to do. And I've got to stick with it. And for a while, that in itself frustrated me because I thought I've got to be a platform medium. That's what I'm going to be. I gave myself that label. I started doing the spiritualist churches. Then I moved into private events. And none of it, as much as I loved helping people, I loved that interaction in that moment with the people that were there, I would walk away and feel that did not bring me joy. That did not inspire my heart to feel joy for me. I felt joy for everybody else who got their message or, you know, had a conversation, whatever. But it didn't feel right for me. So I walked away from that. And then I'm like, okay, what do I do next? So it's an evolution of your growth. And I think it just continues and you just go with it. And if it changes, so be it. In fact, so what? You learned from that. It's like I've done numerous courses in a variety of things, crystals, color, meditation, all sorts, you know, and I used to think, right, that's going to be my business. That's what I'm going to do. Much like Larkin was saying, she went into, you know, coaching and that became her business. But for some reason, no matter how good you are at it, if it doesn't feel right, then there's something not right and you have to move and change. And I gradually got to the point of understanding that I'm an irreverent student because I love to learn, but I also think that's all of us. We, at some level, we all need to be learning. It's a continual learning, this spiritual path journey, whatever you want to call it. And I realized that actually what they were giving me was the inspiration to study something, to learn it, because it became a tool. I call it my toolkit. I have a toolkit now that I can draw a little bit out of here, a little bit out of there with whoever I'm working with. And I think that's the way to look at what you're doing is you're finding what works for you. You're finding your little toolkit and you will find that little area that works, that brings you that sense of this feels so right. I mean, I will be honest, Larkin and I have talked about this channel for a year, 18 months.
At least 2 years. Yeah, I think 2 years.
And in between times, there have been reasons, valid reasons, that we've not been able to connect, make it happen. But even when we got to the point, 2 or 3 months ago of going, yep, we're doing it. Let's get it set up. Let's get going. My little heart went, ooh, I'm not sure. And then it's like, no, I am definitely doing this. I'm going for it. Because there's something within me and I'm working on that. And then when we come here and we sit and we do these, I'm like, I love it.
And there's only 2 of us. So
why was I prevaricating for so long about it? I don't know. But I also think as well that because of the times that we did sort of end up not starting, I don't know about Larkin, but for myself, I had family things going on that needed my focus. And when you split your focus between 2 things, it doesn't always benefit. So yeah. So
like I've got going on, yeah. No, I mean, this is, you know, I think to kind of summarize here for you guys, you know, Debbie said, I love learning, but the information doesn't stick. Well,
no, that's Tracy's just said that.
Oh, Tracy, sorry. That's
I
okay.
know it's
It's the point is, guys, is that you gotta,
doesn't need to.
when you step back and you recognize what is, I mean, and this is what I really focus on with my spiritual coaching. So Susie's going to be sick of hearing this, but she knows it. I mean, the truth is that in our world today, we are taught that what we're thinking or whatever is, that's, we identify, as Eckhart Tolle says, we identify with our thoughts. Well, that's only the 5% of your conscious mind you guys are aware of. Like, this is such an important thing for you all to understand, because when you say, well, the information doesn't stick. Well, here's the thing. The information does stick in your subconscious. 95% you're not aware of. When you are feeling fear over creating boundaries, and there's probably the need to please in there, right? Which is why you have trouble with those boundaries. That is your conscious mind. That 5% is going, oh, what do I do? I'm overwhelmed. I got to shut down my Facebook account. Your subconscious mind is sharing things with you you're not aware of, that's creating that fear because of the meaning that it gives it. See, nothing has meaning until you assign meaning. And that's part of the power of bending reality. That's part of the power of being able to create your own world and your own reality and make your own choices and do this your own way. You also need to remember who you are as a soul. Remember, in the beginning, we talked about you existed for all eternity before this life, and you will exist for all eternity after this life. This is just a small segment of your existence. But your ego, because it dies with your body, has to believe that this is everything. So if you can't set a boundary and people are making you feel overwhelmed, no one can make you feel anyway, but you're feeling overwhelmed because of your subconscious, the part of your mind you're not aware of, beliefs about people pressuring you and not leaving you alone. You see how that creates a false reality that's not real. Nobody can really bombard you. Nobody can really make you feel that way. It's your ego's interpretation. So my point here is that if you can see obstacles as opportunities, and what you want is on the other side of them, then when you find these obstacles, understand that if you focus, okay, what do I got to do to get past this? Identify the fear. The fear always comes from that 95% you don't know. It's not real. It feels real. It projects as real from your subconscious. So when you can get to know your intuition, your mind and your thoughts versus the eternal wise soul that you are, the consciousness that connects to source, then right now this might sound like, what? That's confusing. But eventually it becomes so second nature that you can say, oh yeah, my mind's really got me tied up in that, doesn't it? But I know better. And that becomes your inspiration and your ability to rise above and move on. And you guys don't have to understand that now. Just understand that there's a different way of perceiving reality entirely than what you grew up with and what society says. And once you've discovered that freedom and liberation, you'll be able to remember that connecting with mediumship and spirit is actually your natural modality. It's your natural way of being.
And I just want to come back and touch on Tracy here. I love learning, but the information doesn't stick. While Larkin was talking there, I just wanted to. All right, Debbie, that'd be lovely. And thank you to Chrissy.
Thank you.
Hi, Chrissy, if you've not gone yet. One of the things that's coming to mind here about that is at school, we were taught we had to learn things by rote. We had to repeat, learn it, because then when the exams came at the end, we had to know everything to answer those questions. And that has become, I think, ingrained in us. So our expectation now is that when we learn something, we have to remember every bit of information that we've learned, because that's the way we've been programmed, if you like, to learn, to be taught. So I would say, if you can, throw all of that perception out of the window, because what you're learning now is something completely different. You're learning something that's based on your spirituality, your energy field, your intuition, all of these things. And as Larkin says, a lot of what we learn goes into the subconscious. The mind in itself can only hold anywhere between 5 to 8 pieces of information at any one given time. So while you're learning something and you're absorbing the information, when you've learned and when you pick up a new piece of information, a piece that you've already learned, sat here, say in box 8, drops into the subconscious. So then you only remember what's sat in the front, if you like. If you want to, people can talk about boxes or rooms, whatever. But that's how the mind, the brain works in terms of what we're learning. When you're learning something that's based around crystals, let's say, for example, color therapy, healing modalities, they are all going to become something that is intuitively inspired. And I can promise you, hand on heart, that if you can let go of, I need to remember everything, and just allow your intuition to guide you, when you tune in and you have a question or something comes up or you need to do something, your intuitive energy will go, that's what you need. That's the word you need to use. That's inspired intuition. And then you don't have to torture yourself with the fact that information doesn't stick, because it doesn't need to stick. It just needs to be allowed to sit there in your subconscious. And when the time comes up, take care, Debbie. Thank you very much for being here. Lovely. And I hope whatever it is works out, and sending you lots of love and healing for that. Yeah, I mean, I can give a perfect example, I guess, for me anyway, of this. Many years ago, when I started my journey with crystals, I went and joined a crystal therapy course. It was to run for 2 years. It sounded amazing. The first year I thoroughly enjoyed. And then all of a sudden, the goalposts changed, and everything that they'd advertised wasn't what was being taught. So I ummed and ahed about staying with the course. And interestingly, during that period of time, I ended up going on a weekend retreat in Glastonbury. And while I was there, as happens with spirit, the angels, I was kicking myself a lot because I couldn't remember all the names of the crystals. I couldn't remember what they did. I didn't know how to use them, despite the fact I'd spent a year on this course. And this lady walked into the bed and breakfast I was staying in. She was a friend of the owner. She'd come for breakfast. We were sat there having a conversation, and she was like, "Oh, why are you here?" And so I told her, and we got talking about crystals. And I told her how I felt about this course and what was going on. And she went, "You need to meet my husband." She said, "He's a crystal therapist." I was like, "Oh, really? How amazing. Fabulous." So we arranged to meet. She took me to where they lived, which was the most amazing cottage in the countryside. It was beautiful. It was a bit like Hansel and Gretel and a witchy cottage all in one. And the energy was just fantastic. And I mean, in those days, this was all new experiences for me. And I didn't really understand energy as I do now, but I just knew, walking up to this cottage, I felt like I stepped into a bubble, and it was almost like I time warped. Anyway, I swear to you, every foreseeable surface in that cottage was covered in crystals. There wasn't an empty space. And I was like, I was in heaven, to be honest, walk. And I can understand now why there was this beautiful energy all around. So I'm like, okay. So we got talking to him, lovely guy. And I said to him, I'm really struggling. I can't remember the names of the crystals. I don't know how I'm going to work with this. And he took me into his therapy room, which was enormous. And again, every surface had crystals on it. He had chest of drawers, and he opened the drawers and they were full of crystals. And I just looked and I went, "How do you know all these crystals?" And he went, "I don't." He said, "I don't know the names of all of them. Why do I need to know the names of all of them? When my client walks through that door," he said, "I work with them. I talk to them."
Chills. I have such chills. Yes.
I talk to them. I understand what's going on for them. And then I allow I'm going goosebumpy now. I allow my guidance to show me the crystals that I need to use on that person. And you know what? It was the best guidance I ever received about crystals. And I left that course. I took what I needed. It took me a year to get to that point, to meet that person, to gain the understanding that I needed, to know that I didn't need to learn every inch and aspect of the crystals, to know that I could sit there. I mean, I intuitively, who knows? But I brought my little crystal skull down and 3 little quartz wands, and they've been sat here. I trusted my intuition to bring them here, and I know now why, because we've come to this topic. So forget about the information not sticking. What you need to know will come to you when you need it. And another quick story, I was on holiday in India. I went on a little trip away to a cashew nut farm because I love cashew nuts. So I wanted to learn about them, just see where they grew and things like that. And we were walking through, and the guide asked a question. I genuinely, hand on heart, never didn't know the answer because I'd never learnt it. But in the moment he asked that question, this word just popped out of my mouth. It was something to do with the cashew nuts and Latin name or something like that. It just popped out, and he looked at me and he went, "You're the first person who's ever answered that question correctly." I walked away absolutely stunned. I'm like, I didn't even know that. And I can't tell you what it is because it was never a learning. It was a intuitive answer. So I hope that's helped you with your little bit about learning. Here we go.
Yeah, this is so important. And I starred these two because I wanted to, add in a little bit to what Susie was saying, that, also, guys, keep in mind with what I was saying before and with Susie's story here, information comes from your human intellect. And as Susie said, we're taught how important that is, right? We've just gone through, the whole age of human history here was basically the age of thought. There are many forms of intelligence, and our human intellect is only one of them. And that's where the category of information falls into. So when you're talking about information, we're talking about what makes humans different from non-human animals. We are animals, guys. I hate to tell you, humans are animals. Don't let religion tell you otherwise. We are. You're either a plant or an animal. And other animals have as much intelligence as we do. They have souls. They have wisdom. They've had past lives. They have cosmic memory. They have purpose. They have psychology. What they don't have is our prefrontal cortex and the shape of the mouth that we have that allows them, the vocal cords that allow them to speak a language as we do. But they have other languages, and they have other forms of intelligence that they share with us and also have that are greater than us. But we humans don't know because our egos are so caught up in our voice box and our thumb, what we can do with our thumb, we can make tools, and our prefrontal cortex, which only human beings have. This is wonderful, but it's also a hindrance. We have to learn to master it. We have to learn to use this. Okay. So remember that information is important. It's intellect, but it's not everything. And like Susie was sharing with the crystals, I never learned tarot cards. I've read tarot cards for years. You know how I learned them? I just did it. I pulled out the dang tarot cards and I did what came through. I'm going, oh my God, I was so nervous about, I don't know what these are, but you know what? Spirit told me what they were. And the first person I read for was a master at reading tarot cards. And they were like, oh my God, how did you know that? That's like the best tarot reading I've ever had. Where did you learn to read tarot? And I said, I didn't. Spirit just told me what was on the card. So what Susie's saying, I absolutely 1,000% back that and back her story. And the truth is, guys, is that wisdom, spiritual wisdom and knowledge and information is very different than the information that you're getting technically. Like, I want to, let's see. Well, I guess I can use this one that's popped up. Even with the Reiki. Okay. How do you build confidence? You just do it. How did I start reading for groups? I was terrified. Even though my skills were out the freaking wazoo until I got in front of a group. And then they weren't bad, but I just had to do it. So, fear is fear of the unknown, right? It's an illusion. It's an anticipation of what may happen and may go wrong. And for survival, our brain tells us and our mind tells us, we always look at the fear and what could go wrong more than we look at what could go right, right? I'm sure you guys experience that. So just keep in mind that again, that's your comfort zone. So you have to distinguish. Is this, okay, so it's information. So what? You have to make it your own. You can intellectually get information, but until you practice it on your own, and especially with all this spiritual stuff, until you make it your own, and as Susie described, allow it to come through you in your own way, with your own connection, it's not yours. How are you going to make it yours? Practice. How are you going to build confidence? Practice. It's the only way. You're not going to sit there and contemplate how to feel more comfortable and do what I did for years, where you wait and wait and wait and wait to do it until you feel ready. No one is ever ready for anything. If you think you are, you're probably not really. You're ready once you do it. So, my advice from personal experience and from teaching a lot of people this and watching people go through this is faith, trust yourself, and practice. And it's amazing the magic that happens, right, Susie?
Yeah, absolutely. Just touching on what Tracy shared here about her Reiki. First of all, I want to ask, did you do your 21 days of practicing on yourself? And do you still do that? So, yeah, you'll never be ready until you're ready, and you'll never know when that is. So it's about just going for it. So little practical tips here, I hope, will help you. Continue doing your own practice on you. What is it you fear the most about this lack of confidence when you are going to do your Reiki? So, yeah, okay. So yes, I did, and no, I don't. All right, perfect. That's a good start. So start again. You don't have to do all of them, but just on an evening or during the daytime, if you're feeling a little bit, all right, let's just go with the lack of confidence. Lack of confidence is due to fear, as Larkin says. That what is the fear? Most often than not, and I'm making a little intuitive assumption here, it's fear of failure. It's fear that you're not going to be successful. Okay, calling in the symbols, doing it properly. All right. Oh, I could get on a soapbox about this one as well. I'll try and keep it simple. Many, many years ago, I did my Reiki one. I followed it up 5 years later, repeated it because, like you, I had no confidence, but I used it mainly for myself anyway at that time, because I was going through the grieving process with the loss of my husband. So slightly different scenario here. But I didn't practice on anybody else because, like you, I didn't have the confidence. I didn't feel I could do it. When I tuned in and sat with that, I realized it was because I sort of felt a sense of failure, that what if it didn't work? Because I had this concept, this belief that when we do Reiki and we're helping heal somebody, we're going to heal them. They're not going to have the aches and pains or whatever else going on anymore. Wrong. What we do with Reiki is we help them release whatever it is that's going on for them, so that they can then go in and facilitate their own healing process. Now, that might be that's where they go to find somebody to help them. So I have a family member who's gone through some major surgery, is suffering with body image now. Their confidence has hit an all-time low. What I can do with Reiki to help them is not heal them, because they've had the surgery, they've got the disease already. It's not going away. This is where conventional and holistic work together. I'm not going to cure him, because let's change the word healing to cure, because that's what some people may consider that we should be doing. I used to think that. I used to believe this won't work because I can't cure them. I can't take away what's wrong with them. It's always going to be there. So I'm going to fail. Automatically, I'd set myself up for failure. So I didn't do it. Then over the years, I've realized that that's not the truth of it. The truth of it is working with a healing modality. We're not going to heal that person in a way that they're going to be completely cured. Yes, there are the stories out there. There are the miracles that have happened, not denying that. They are exceptional, unique circumstances. But most of the time, when we're working with that modality, whatever it is, it's to help the person find their own healing process. Now, it might mean that we offer that. I offer this to this family member. They go off and they find a medical herbalist, let's say, who will then help them take the right herbs to help the internal healing process. It's all about helping them open up their own inner channel, if you like, to finding and calling in what's right for them. So I think that's where we feel we're going to fail, because we're not going to heal that person. It will work, because no matter what you do, you're trusting in that energy flowing through you. That's the other thing as well. We need to step out of our own way when we're doing the healing work. So we need to forget about, is it going to work? Isn't it going to work? Doesn't matter. We just put the hands there. We do what we need to do, and we trust. Calling in the symbols. Okay. The symbols came, and I had a conversation with Yusui in meditation one day, because I struggled with this big style with Reiki, and I didn't do it for that reason, because I'm like, I'll never remember the symbols. I can't draw them. All of that went on, and this is how it can happen sometimes. I went to meet a friend for coffee. We were sat in this beautiful little cafe. The energy was immense. It was lovely. It was such a beautiful energy, and I think that helped. She was taking forever at the counter because there was a queue, and I just sat there, and all of a sudden this little voice went, "Yusui here?" I was like, "You're joking." What? Really? No, I'm making it up, because I'd not thought about him. I hadn't thought about Reiki. I hadn't had that conversation. There was no reason for that name to drop into my mind, but it did. So I went, okay. And I got my notebook out, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And when I reread it, the gist of it was the symbols didn't matter. Yusui didn't have symbols when he came down with that modality and worked with it. The symbols came when Reiki moved from the east to the west. And one of the reasons I know this for a fact now is that after doing my Western Reiki, I then met a beautiful soul who trained in the Eastern Reiki. And I'm like, didn't know there was an Eastern. But then when you think about it, where did Yusui come from? He came from the East. He never came to the UK. One of his, somebody he mentored, can't think of the right word to use, but anyway, and her name was Takana. She went to the West, being America, and she introduced Reiki to the West, and she introduced the symbols, and that's where they evolved from. She received them as downloads, not saying they're wrong, not saying that they can't be used. They can, because I've been intuitively receiving symbols over the years that I've drawn myself. Different story again. But what I'm trying to share with you is that you don't need to know them ad infinitum. You don't need to be able to memorize them to every inch that they're drawn in. You can just think the word, because when they teach Eastern Reiki, they use mantras and sound. They don't use symbols in Eastern Reiki. So I hope that helps a little bit to understand why we can work with things. So for me, doing the Eastern Reiki feels so much more better. And I put all the symbols for Reiki away and moved into a different way of being and doing. So it's about doing what's right for you at the end of the day. If you feel you need to do it all over again, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, be guided by your own sense of feeling. Sometimes if we haven't resonated, shall we say, with the teacher that we had, then there's nothing wrong with going and having a new teacher to take you through it again. I did, as I say, I did my Reiki 1 all over again 5 years after my first one. I did my Reiki 2 with the same lady. I did my 3 in Western and Eastern with a different lady again. So it's all about finding the person whose energy resonates with you at that time, and that will help you as well. But getting back to you, getting over this confidence, start practicing on yourself again, and don't worry about the symbols. If they come to mind, use them. If they don't, doesn't matter. It's horses for courses is what I want to say. The other thing you can do is, if you've got a pet, practice on your pet. I used to practice on plants, because you may not notice a change in the energy of the pet or the plant that you're practicing with, but what you will notice is the energy that's flowing through you. You will start to recognize how it feels to you. Is it strong? Is it subtle? Does it have a different feel when you're working with somebody different? Hi, Jean. If it has a different feel, what were you doing in that moment? So this is where you need to journal as well. But just make notes. Just keep a little journal of what you're doing when you do this. Did a symbol come into your mind? If it did, make a note of that. Then look at what that symbol is about.
Hey,
And you may, again, it comes back to, it's all about your own internal guidance system. Let's put it that way. Your own internal sat nav, and using that in a way that it benefits you. You know, we're taught these things by these beautiful teachers over the years because that's what they've learned, that's what they pass on. I can guarantee you that if you were to go and pick half a dozen Reiki teachers out there in the internet world, they will all have a different way of doing it. They will all offer different teachings because they start to make it unique to themselves. But what's important for you in your confidence is understanding how it feels for you when you're using it. And if that means practicing on a pet, practicing on plants, you can practice on an inanimate object because everything is energy. Everything holds energy. Practice on a crystal. You know, if you pick up, I know when my crystals need cleansing because I sense it and I feel it. So if you've got crystals that you've perhaps not worked with or used or picked up for a long time, pick one of those crystals up and practice your Reiki on the crystal. Make a note of how it feels when you first picked it up, then do the Reiki, and then make a note of how it feels after. These are all little practices that you can make to help build your confidence. Then find a friend or a family member, somebody, and I get that it's maybe somebody that's open to what this is about, because not everybody is into alternative healing, and just say, do you mind if I practice with you? And that's what it's, as Larkin says, practice, practice, practice. Okay, thank you, Tracy. They've been amazing. That's an amazing.
It is amazing.
Shared with us. Hi, Diane. Hi, Jean. Lovely to see you guys.
I want to say a few things.
Please do.
Probably any minute. I don't think I'm going to remember everything I wanted to say, but it's because everything you said was so important, Susie. But I want to again just Tracy, I'm so glad this has helped. Literally, Susie and I could go on for hours about this. I mean, really, both of us. It's incredible. But I think one of the main things I keep bringing back and wanting to just summarize for you is that, you know, like I love what you said about the Reiki and the symbols and all that. And it is so true because, you know, like my energy work healing, I still have an aversion to Reiki. And I have a lot of students and clients that have done it, that want to do it. But the reason I have an aversion to it is I want my stuff to be very pure. Susie was able to take her Reiki training and pull the pure work out of it and do it intuitively, so it didn't affect her. But a lot of people go and they just get caught up in the symbols and this and that, almost to the point where it becomes like a cult that they're in, depending on who the teacher is, what they want to do, all this and that. And what's important is to do what Susie can do, which is make it your own. I went ahead and I had Shaolin energy work training, which is very, very similar. But we didn't have any of that. It came pure from the Shaolin masters that had sneaked out of China to give my teacher their information. And some of them came over and worked with us as well. It was information we weren't supposed to have over here because it stayed that pure. And so just keep in mind and be vigilant when you're doing these things. It does need to go through you intuitively and to trust yourself, pluck out of it what's real and necessary, but understand that once it's gotten over to the Western world and it's been marketed and taught again and again and again and again and again so quickly, it loses its potency. And the ego still thinks it's just as powerful, but really it's lost a lot. And so you might have to do a little bit like Susie has, really get into, there'll be some rediscovery in there. And that's important because keep in mind that originally the Reiki masters would train for 10 years living the lifestyle 24/7 every day for 10 years, living on site with their master as a way of life. Nowadays, you can be a Reiki master in
a weekend.
Yeah, literally. You can do, you can spend, it depends on who you're training with. You can spend a weekend to 3 weeks just getting your level 1. And within less than a year, you can be considered a master. Okay. So to me, this is not okay. You are not a master in a week.
My journey from redoing my level 1 right through to doing my level 3s took me 3 years.
But what Susie had, though, is she was integrating intuitively, which meant whatever she's done in past lives, whatever came back from her knowledge from cosmic memory, if you go into trusting yourself and don't get too caught up in the intellectual part, which is the memorizing and the symbols and that can actually take away from it. And so like for me, a lot of times when I'm doing a reading or group readings, I'll say, like there are animals that popped up this past week. I said, I don't have this book and that book. I don't know that one. I need to look that one up. I haven't read that one yet. Oh, wait a minute. Let me ask Spirit. Spirit's telling me. Spirit told me. People looked it up. I looked it up afterwards. It was exactly. So you can get and remember some of this stuff bypassing the memorizing stuff. Learn what you can, get the information, but then let it go and make it your own, which, Susie's story so beautifully shared. And I just want to make sure to throw that in there. It's really, really important that we do this authentically, not get sold on all these programs and things that are marketed, which I have programs too. I've marketed things, but you don't want them to be something carbon copy that then you get stressed over and you lose confidence about. You just have to jump in and you have to see what happens for you because it's going to be different for everyone.
Just touching on this, Tracy's comment here, I've been told several times that I am a soul healer. No idea what the difference is. I think for me, what I'm sensing is that we all have a soul, and within that becomes the energy of the lifetimes, the life that we live now. And depending on which culture you are subscribed to, believe in, whatever, it will have different meanings. I mean, you look at the shamanic work with soul, they do lots of soul, they retrieve soul parts that have been shattered and moved away. They do lots of shadow work. Other people do lots of shadow work. This is all soul work. But we are a soul, a spirit in a physical body. So for me, I feel whatever we're doing at the levels that we do it at, with our healing work, the words that we speak, the readings that we do, this is all soul work because it's all touching the soul of the person that you're being with. So for you, I wouldn't put any emphasis at the moment on that you're a soul healer, because that could be that this is what you're working towards, and what that means for you will be different to what it means for other people. It could be that, you know, you will be somebody that helps do soul retrieval because that person has, for whatever trauma they've gone through, they've lost a little piece of their soul and it needs retrieving. It might be that you've got somebody who comes to you who's had a bad time, they're grieving, their soul is hurting because of that grief. So in that respect, you could be a grief counselor. That is soul healing, because we're all working, when we work with our healing work, on the soul of the person as well as the mind and the physical body. So I personally at the moment wouldn't be too concerned around what the word soul healer means for you. I feel for now that's something you can just sort of like park, if you like, pop in a journal somewhere that you've been told this, what does it mean, and then forget about it. Focus on building that confidence about working with this beautiful energy, this divine energy that's going to flow through you, and then allow that energy, because it will open you up to be inspired by spirit, the angels, whoever your guides, whoever you work with. And the answers to that will come to you over time. I think when we focus on what other people tell us we're going to be, we lose our way. We sort of get told, right, that's who you are, that's what you're going to do. And you get lost in that because you become blinkered. You focus on that path to that thing. You know, I was told years ago I would write a book, and for a long time I focused on wanting to write a book. I was so blinkered, I missed lots of other things going on, and then it all didn't happen. So then I was like, oh, well, that was, you know, that was a load of baloney. I was told I was going to write a book, never going to happen. I now have, they're not quite books, but I now have journals on Amazon that I produce, you know, witches' almanacs, gratitude journals, colouring journals, all those sort of things. It's a book, not in the way I perceived it. Yes, Larkin.
I actually have to get off in a few minutes because
okay,
I missed.
Well, we have been 2 hours. So
I missed the vet appointment call that I was supposed to get, and so I do have to call them. But I want to mention on this, I really get a sick feeling to my stomach when I see the word soul healer. I do not agree with that at all. I have a huge aversion to that. I don't think it was bad that was suggested to you. I just think it was a misuse of terminology. Your souls do not need healing. Ever. Your soul is perfect. It always has been. It always will be. It is part of God. It is just evolving. So I think the person meant well, whoever told you that, and maybe they thought it was a beautiful term. It makes me nauseous, quite honestly. Humans here in experiences where we feel pain and we struggle and we feel suffering. It is only and always an illusion of ego. Always. You can never be hurt. Your soul can never be hurt. Your soul can never be wounded. You are always safe. Your body, your mind, your ego can be hurt and wounded. Your soul cannot. So your soul never needs healing. It is on a perfect golden thread of conscious evolution. Okay? So I'm sure the person meant well, but we need to be careful of our words and how we identify that and what that means. Because when we are helping people to heal, when we are facilitating that, all we ever need to do is hold space. And believe me, that's harder than it sounds. It means having to learn to be present, having to learn to not think, having to learn to be aware of your thoughts, having to learn to be consciously awake. And 99.999% of people will never do that in their lifetime. So to whatever extent we can hold space for others and allow them to heal, There were so many things Susie said before I wanted to comment on, I want to remember, but one of the beautiful ones was, you know, when people heal themselves, we are the facilitators. We can hold the space when we do a healing. We can, even Jesus, when he healed, he would tell people when they went off, now, if you don't want this to come back, this is what you must do. And it was up to them, because anything that was wrong was something they were either here to learn or they were creating while they were here. There's never truly anything wrong. That's the illusion we must have to live as a human being and to evolve. Okay, so I hate to shatter the egoic illusion here. But even when people come to me as a reading, I don't like doing psychic readings. I see what's going to happen based on the choices of what they're going to make. But I don't necessarily agree with sharing that, because just as Susie said, I could see books and I could see you writing, and I could say to you, okay, I see you writing books. Is that really what I'm seeing though? I could see you writing and I could see books. Maybe that's you struggling to write a book and never getting it out there. Maybe that's you editing somebody else's book. I mean, my point is that a psychic medium, there's room for interpretation, just like in a conversation between two people. Why? Because there's always room for interpretation with the human mind. So guys, even though this is spiritual conversation we're having here, and readings and mediumship we're giving you, keep in mind that you are always under the influence of your mind. And it's very important to discern between what is spirit and what is mind, what is ego and what is consciousness, what is cognition and what is intuition. And therein will lie the answer to so many of your questions. Because the mind will worry and make things complicated and see problems. Consciousness keeps it simple, fun, easy, and sees obstacles as opportunities. Okay.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. See, I learned something new every day as well. Jean says, hello, I've lost my way due to many things going on in my life at this time. Next year, I want to get back to healing, readings, etc. Just need a push. I'll give you that push, Jean. Don't you worry. Jean, some of what you've shared there is some of the conversation that we've had prior to this. So I know we've made this 2 hours long and we didn't intend to, but it has been what it is, and loved every minute of it. But we do need to wind this up now. So if you pop back to us next Monday, Jean, we'll perhaps take your question then, or if not, you know how to get hold of me. And you know how to get hold of Larkin now, I'm sure, if you felt like you were drawn to Larkin as well. I think we need to call this to a close, because I know you need to get to sort your lovely little doggy out. And hand on heart, it's 7:30 here in the UK, and I need to eat. I never eat before I start these, because I just find out.
Either. I haven't eaten all day. I've been on the run.
You're welcome, Tracy. So everybody that's still here with us, thank you so much for staying. Totally appreciate you all.
Can I throw this out real quick? One last kick for this. I still have spaces in the Hocus Pocus Haunted Halloween Party. It is only $25. It is 2 hours. We do mini readings, and we're going to answer questions about things you're afraid of with spirit. So,
and what's the date?
It is the 11th from 12 to 2. Saturday, November. Yeah, 12 to 2.
So 12 p.m. your time will make it 5 p.m. UK time. Yeah. 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Unfortunately, I think I'm working, so otherwise I would be there.
I'm just trying to get a few more people in, because it's such an awesome event, and I thought I'd have a ton of people. Yeah. And I have 3 people. And I had space for 20. So if you're interested, you guys can register at larkinsreadings.com/shop, or you can check out on my psychic medium page. And then Susie and I are going to be having lots of other fun things coming up as well. But we hope that you'll join us here again at 5:30 p.m. UK time, or 12:30 p.m. EDT
to
next
week.
week.
Find the replay of this will be on our YouTube channel.
Yes, like the YouTube channel, please.
Yeah. So please come follow us, like and subscribe. And I will be uploading this hopefully by tomorrow evening. Whether I'll get it done, because I don't think I'll get it done now. But yeah, it will be on YouTube.
Thank you for all your
there's the previous weeks to watch as well.
Yes, and thank you for all your wonderful questions and comments.
Absolutely.
You joined us today.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I am very grateful for Larkin and for all of you. Mwah. Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.